Hey MVPs, twsloaa here. Today I wanted to take a break from talking about the video game multiverses and talk about all of the franchises within it. More specifically, I wanted to go across 16 different pieces of media from throughout all of the multiverses franchises and rank them from best to worst. Now, some characters like Finn and Jake have the same home franchise, Adventure Time, and it really only has the one show, so I'll be ranking them as one. Other characters like Harley Quinn and Black Adam could technically fall under the DC brand, but they have enough solo material that I think I could rank them on their own. With that out of the way, let's get right into the list. Hey guys, real quick, right before I get into the list, if you guys could do me a favor and drop a like on this video and hit subscribe. The reaction to the first two videos has been insane, and I never expected to get even half as many views. So if this is the kind of content you like to watch, consider subscribing. There's plenty more on the way. Back to the video. First up on the list, we have Batman the Animated Series. Obviously, this is where Batman comes from. This is the first time Kevin Conroy ever did the voice for him. It's the first time we ever really saw this style of Batman, and in my opinion, it is simply iconic. I mean, talk about a great show. I could not believe how quality this was. I've been sleeping on this show for quite a long time. I checked it out a couple years ago, and just for this video, I gave seasons 1 and 2 a rewatch, and it was just as amazing as I remember. This is an easy S tier. I'd be shocked if anything surpasses this. Keeping with the DC format, next up we have Superman. For this video, I decided to rank Superman 78, starring Christopher Reeve. Again, just like Batman the Animated Series, this is the most iconic performance of Superman. I think it's the best. I love the movie. Anyone who's seen it, there are great actors in this. Gene Hackman is great as Lex Luthor, although I do wish he was bald for more of the movie. When I was a kid and I watched this movie, I didn't even realize that was supposed to be Lex Luthor, just because he had hair. I love all the performances in this movie, the effects. Some are dated, but some really do still hold up, and the score. The score is something I really want to highlight here. I really hope that Multiversus eventually gives us a Superman stage with this theme, because it is just so iconic and so powerful. This is another easy S tier. I don't think it's quite as good as Batman the Animated Series, simply just because Batman is animated, and I think it has so many more episodes that there's just not enough content for Superman to beat, but it is close, very close. Next up, rounding out the DC Trinity, we have Wonder Woman, and for this I decided to review the 2017 Wonder Woman film directed by Patty Jenkins. This is a part of the DCEU, and so are a couple of the movies we're going to be watching later, but this is the earliest one that we're watching today, and I think this is one of the DCEU best movies, if you ask me. I'm not a huge fan of Man of Steel. I didn't like Batman v Superman, and I thought the first Suicide Squad was abysmal, but more on that later. Wonder Woman, however, was a breath of fresh air, and I think it really does great with this character. I like the time period. I like a lot of the effects, although I do think the ending starts to look a little bad, especially when Ares appears. And when I rewatched it for this video, I was really shocked, but the score is really good. They really should use some more of it in Multiverses if they can. Now, a couple of the flaws, like I said, the last 50 to 40 minutes of this movie really start to drag, and I do feel like it retreads some territory. I feel like it's a lot of the first Captain America movie. It takes a lot from the first Thor movie, but even if it isn't the most original thing I've ever seen, it is really high quality. So for that reason, I'm going to put it in A tier. It's nowhere near Batman or Superman, but it is very good, and here's hoping they make another one soon. Alright, up next is Harley Quinn, and for Harley Quinn, I chose to review the 2021 film The Suicide Squad, not to be confused with the 2016 film Suicide Squad. I chose this one because you can equip her Task Force X costume in Multiverses, and personally, it's my favorite one of the Harley Quinn skins. Back when the open beta was online, I used to rock it all the time. I thought it was so cool, and that's because I like this movie a lot. I think this movie is so cool. Those of you who know my most wanted character from Multiverses, he's in this movie. Obviously, Peacemaker also had a series, and that's when I really fell in love with the idea of him joining Multiverses. But he got his start in this movie, and he's very funny. This movie brings a lot to the table. It's comedic, it's stylish, it's emotional, I don't think the score is on the level of even Wonder Woman, and I also think that some of the effects can look a little, not cheap, but just a little off in some places, particularly when King Shark is interacting with other characters. It looks a little fake, but it's still a fantastic movie, one that I rewatch again and again and again. I definitely put it in A tier, above Wonder Woman, but just a little bit below Superman, that level. It doesn't reach that super high quality. Alright, rounding out the last of the DC characters, finally. When I first started this, I forgot how many DC characters there were in Multiverses, so for the first 4 or 5 hours of this project, I was just rewatching DC movies. So last up is Black Adam, and I really only had one choice for this. It was the Dwayne Johnson film from 2022. I thought this movie was okay. Wasn't anything special. The effects were pretty standard. The score had 1 or 2 tracks that I hummed afterwards, but nothing I'd care to see in the game itself. I thought the plot was a little basic. It took a lot from Terminator 2 in my opinion, but it was fun. The villain was a bit of a letdown, super forgettable, and I honestly kind of wish it was a Justice Society movie. But if they wanted to put something like Kahndaq into Multiverses, I wouldn't hate it. Overall, it's probably the worst DC movie I've watched for this video, so for that reason, I'm only going to be able to put it in B. Not that I hate it or anything, but I just think it could use some work. I also don't think Dwayne Johnson is a particularly good fit for this character, although I do like the Man in Black costume in Multiverses. That's a lot of fun, and I like the voice lines for that one. Alright, first up for our first non-DC project is Adventure Time. Now obviously this is where I'm counting for Finn and Jake. I had never seen this show before. In fact, this was the first time I'd ever watched it was for this video, and I only checked out season 1. I'm trying to limit myself to 1 season for each of these TV shows that I've never seen. I only have so much time, and I really liked what I saw. In fact, I want to watch more after this. I was really impressed. It's a very quirky show, it's a very funny show, it's got a nice charm to it. I don't like using this word often, but I really like its vibe. It's very relaxing sometimes, but it can be high energy and funny at other times. Jake, one of my favorite characters in this show, great performance by John DiMaggio. He also does the voice in Multiverses, and he also voices Bender in Futurama, which is one of my favorite shows. So, I really like this show. This one took me by surprise. I expected it to be much lower. I'm putting this one in A tier, right above Wonder Woman, but right below the Suicide Squad. Great work, Adventure Time. Right, so for all the Looney Tunes, that's Bugs, Taz, Marvin, and is that it? I think that's it in the game. If I'm forgetting one of them, forgive me. But I'd never seen Space Jam before. I'd never seen its sequel either, and I gotta be honest, I don't think I was missing out on much. Michael Jordan is in this film. He gives about as good of a performance as you would expect. It's nothing special. The whole time I was wishing it just focused on the Looney Tunes. Every time we would cut away to the real world, the human world, I just kind of clocked out. And then even when we were in the Looney Tunes world, it didn't really hit as hard as any of the Looney Tunes shorts that I've seen. I thought that the animation was good, but it didn't mesh well with the real life versions at all. And I thought some of the effects were embarrassing. Like when the one guy gets inflated like a balloon, it was really, really bad. So I'm gonna put this one in C tier. The original Space Jam. It's not exactly a letdown because I wasn't expecting anything, and I know this movie has its fans, but I'm not one of them, sorry. Alright, sticking with the Space Jam theme, I also watched its sequel, obviously. This is where LeBron James comes from. In fact, the game even lists Space Jam 2 as LeBron's origin. No one tell them that his origin, well, he's an actual person, but at least the Warner Bros. Character LeBron James originated from this movie. And I don't know if this is an unpopular opinion, I haven't looked it up, but I vastly preferred this one to the first one. It gave me a lot of Multiverses vibes, traveling through, I think they called it the Serververse. I wonder how that fits into the Multiverses lore. But I thought it was fine. I didn't think this one was that much better than the first, but I did think it was a little better. I thought it was really stupid, but like a good stupid. I do think LeBron James is a better actor than Michael Jordan, and the climax with Don Cheadle was really funny. I don't know if that's an unpopular opinion. I feel like this is a movie that a lot of people don't like, but I enjoyed it for what it was. And because of that, I'm going to put it in B tier, right above Black Adam. Alright, sticking with the Toon theme, we have two more Toons coming up, one of which is Tom and Jerry. I watched the HBO Max film, released in 2022. I thought it was okay. I mean, actually, I thought it was kind of bad. I'm trying to be nice to this movie because it's obvious it's meant for a much younger demographic than I am. But even as a kid, I can't see myself enjoying this movie very much. Michael Pena is in this film, and he is on autopilot. It honestly seems like he showed up just to collect a check. I like Michael Pena and a lot of things, but this is not one of those things. The characters are animated in a really strange way. They look like they're 2D, but they're not. And there are some scenes where they look really awesome, and there are some scenes where they look really awful. All those typical jokes you think you're gonna see in a movie like this, they're there. You got the fart jokes, the poop jokes, the jokes about drones. there's lots of stuff in this movie that I didn't care for. Kind of a letdown, because I really do think Tom and Jerry is great shorts. In fact, I prefer it to Looney Tunes. So unfortunately, Tom and Jerry, I'm gonna have to put you in D tier. Alrighty, for the Scooby-Doo franchise, I watched one film for Shaggy and one series for Velma. And first up, for Shaggy, I watched the 2002 film Scooby-Doo. This is a live-action film. I'm typically not a fan of live-action to cartoon conversions, but this one I really enjoyed. I think the guy who did Shaggy in this movie went on to voice him in MULTIVERSUS and a bunch of other projects, and he's easily the highlight. He gives a great performance. It's literally like Shaggy came to life on screen. Kind of the opposite. Scooby-Doo has never looked more fake. He doesn't feel like part of the crew, and the villain in this movie is super weak, but that doesn't mean you don't have a fun time. This movie has a lot of weird segments. I read online that it was initially meant to be more adult, and you can definitely tell in some scenes it's just a bit odd, but I kind of like that. It's definitely a lot of fun. It's nothing I would go out of your way to see, but if you were scrolling through the channels and you saw this playing on a TV show, I'd give it a watch. I throw it in B tier. I don't think it's better than Black Adam, but I think it's a heck of a lot funnier. Alright, next up we have Velma. This is an HBO TV series that released in 2023. I'm obviously watching this for the character Velma in MULTIVERSUS, and I have to be honest, am I missing something? I thought this show was really bad. I know it's gotten a lot of hate online, and I don't know if I would call what I feel for this show hate, but I just could not get through this. I couldn't help but fall asleep. I mean, it isn't funny, it's very hate-filled, it's very cynical, and that's just not what I want to see from a character like Velma. I don't think this was good at all. This is an easy D tier. People have brought up the idea of maybe putting Velma as she appears in this series as a skin in MULTIVERSUS. I wouldn't be against that, because Velma's design is not something I have a problem with. I think it looks just like Velma, honestly. So I would totally buy a skin of her design from this show. But as for the show itself, I just thought it was abysmal. So here's hoping if they do any more shows of the Scooby-Doo characters, Daphne or Velma, not Velma, Daphne or Fred, I'd check those out, but please, they gotta be better than this. I don't see how it can get much worse. Game of Thrones. This is the series that Arya Stark is from. I'm sure many of you guys have seen it. I'm a big Game of Thrones fan myself. But unfortunately, if you've seen the show, you know that it doesn't end on the best note. I don't think it's as bad as many people say, but I certainly don't think it's good. Because of that, really, it's a fantastic show with a subpar ending. I could see myself maybe putting it in A without that ending, but that ending, I'm gonna have to drag it down to B. I know Game of Thrones is a masterful show, But for me, the most important part of a show is how it ends. I talked about this in the Walter White video a little bit, but think of Breaking Bad's ending, such a fantastic ending. Compared to something like this, it was just not great. Although Arya Stark as a character is awesome. I love her in this show, and there are so many costumes and stages they could put in this scene. It's insane. So I definitely want to see more Game of Thrones content, maybe even a second character. But the show itself, I really, really like, but as it went on, I started to fall off, and that last season, I just tuned out. So it's going in B tier for me, above Space Jam: A New Legacy, but very far from Wonder Woman. Rick and Morty. Obviously, this is the origin of the two title characters. I thought this show was pretty good. Now, I've only seen season 1, but I would not say no to watching more. It's not something I think I'm going to go out of my way to do, but it's a lot of fun. Yeah, I really don't have that much to say about this show. I like sci-fi, I like comedy, and I think this show can be a little too mean-spirited at times and a little too full of itself. But when it gets it right, it really does get it right, and some very imaginative concepts are in these episodes. Very creative. I don't think it's better than Game of Thrones, even with Game of Thrones' mediocre ending, but I do think it clears Space Jam: A New Legacy. Ironically, Rick and Morty, along with a bunch of Warner Bros. Characters, are in Space Jam Legacy. But yeah, I think Rick and Morty could make for some great MULTIVERSUS content in the future. If you want to do more costumes or stages or something like that, I wouldn't say no. So into B tier it goes. Now, Steven Universe is actually a show I watched a lot as a teenager when I was younger. I was kind of at that age where I was growing out of cartoons, but I managed to catch on to Steven Universe right before I fully grew out of them. And let me just say that this show started off really, really excellent. I'm not a huge fan of the ending. This is kind of just like Game of Thrones, where I think it's great at the start, but as it goes on, it starts to kind of simmer down. Now, I definitely want to see more crystal gems in MULTIVERSUS. I talked about it in previous videos. I want to see Lapis, I want to see Pearl, I want to see Amethyst. That would be awesome. Bring those characters in. They have such potential, great movesets. The music, the score, and all the songs that they sing are incredible. I mean, just amazing. And that makes sense because if you listen to the MULTIVERSUS stage, I think that stage in MULTIVERSUS, I forget the name of it, but Steven Universe's stage has the best music in the game. So it's obvious. So I definitely think the ending of this series brings it down a bit, but I do think it's better than Space Jam: A New Legacy. I don't think it has as many unique ideas as Rick and Morty, so I'm going to put it below that. Slide it right into B tier, right middle of the road. A really creative show that I don't think met its full potential, but is a whole lot of fun. Now, I had never even heard of Gremlins when they were added to MULTIVERSUS. I was aware a little bit of their existence, but I sure as heck had never seen the movie. So I got to check it out for the first time when I was making this video. Shout out to my friend Raj for letting me borrow the DVD. He's a legend, and I thought it was pretty funny. I don't think it was anything special. I think it dragged on a little bit. I don't really know that many people who are fans of Gremlins, but I really loved the effects. This was obviously way before digital effects, so the puppets in this movie are just hilarious. They add to the comedy a lot. I just thought it was a really charming movie. Nothing special, but nothing bad either. I really don't have that much to say about this movie. I don't think there's really anything else they could add from MULTIVERSUS. Honestly, I'm surprised they gave us Stripe and Gizmo in MULTIVERSUS. If I were to add one, I would have gone with just Gizmo, but I like playing as Stripe, so I'm glad they did add him. For the movie itself, it's not a show. For the film itself, I'm going to throw it into B tier, probably right above Rick and Morty. Rick and Morty has a lot more original concepts, but I think Gremlins has a lot of sincerity that a lot of these other projects lack. So you remember at the start of the video when I said I would be shocked if anything topped Batman the Animated Series? Well, turns out I lied. Yeah, I was tricking you guys. There is one film that tops just about anything else in the world for me, and that is, of course, The Iron Giant. Now, this is the origin series for Iron Giant. It's not a series, it's a film. This is where he comes from in MULTIVERSUS, and talk about an amazing film. I watched this film when I was a kid, I watched it when I was a teenager, and I still watch it to this day. I have the signature edition on Blu-ray. and it is amazing. It's emotional, it's funny, the performances are great, the music is hilarious. The music is hilarious. I mean, the jokes are hilarious, and the music is powerful. It's an astounding film. It's a masterpiece, dare I say. I don't know if you have seen this movie. If you haven't, go watch it. Do yourself a favor. You have until the MULTIVERSUS relaunch. Go watch this movie, and I guarantee you will want to become an Iron Giant main. You will want to play him all the time. I am awful with the Iron Giant in MULTIVERSUS, but I still want to play him. As for content they could put in the game, I don't really know if there's anything left to add. I don't know if you could have a stage for him, but I'm just happy he's here. And I'm so happy he finally gets to team up with Superman. That is awesome. This movie is great. If you haven't seen it, go check it out as soon as you can. Easily the top of S tier. So, here it is, the complete tier list, everything from Iron Giant to Velma and everything in between. Let me know what you guys think of my placements down below. Do you agree? What do you disagree with? Where would you place these? I've left a link in the description. You guys can go use this tier list to make your own. Copy and paste it. Let me see what you guys would rank these as. Just start a conversation down below. I will respond to every single comment. Alright, so I hope you've enjoyed this video. It's definitely longer than every video I've made so far. It's a little more off the cuff. I did a bunch of less re-recording. I kind of just wanted to keep this one a little simpler. So let me know what you guys think down below, and I will see you in the multiverse. That was quite the video, guys. This one took me super long to edit compared to the last two, so if you enjoyed, please drop a like, leave a comment, and be sure to subscribe. I wanted to take a minute to again shout out at Mr. White4MVS on Twitter. He retweeted my previous video, he shot me a DM, he gave me a bunch of encouraging words, and the last video hit like 50 views. That's an insane number for me. So just go give this guy a follow. He's a real class act, and I really just like him a lot. Also, I wanted to say thank you to Brucci for leaving the very first comment on the channel on the Walter White video. This is the very first comment, so everyone go like his comment. Brucci, if you're watching, thanks for starting the conversation. Thanks for being the first one. And with that, I will see you guys in the next video.